I am Precious Mzeya Sakaleji. Thank you for joining me. You're watching Camnet TV Main News, the headlines. Eastern Chief says hunger knows no political party and will not be forced to support anyone. CHOMA rose for Chief MUKUNI'S wife and 4 others accused of abduction. Given LUBINDA says only government can determine how much retirees should be paid. And in international news, ZUMA'S lawyers withdraw ahead of corruption trial. And in sports, NKANA re-appoints BESTON CHAMBESHI as head coach. Join me with the main news in detail after this commercial.
2021 has been described as a highly politically charged year. This is because every 5 years the country goes to the polls, and that 5 years elapses with only a few months remaining down to the ballot. The battlefield to appear on the ballot is becoming fertile. A lot of people are expressing interest of appearing on the ballot.
In all this, our interest is to put the duty bearers, the leaders, and those aspiring to task by asking the relevant questions.
If you're an aspiring candidate, be it councillor, mayor or member of parliament, get in touch with us to get yourself on the verdict.
We go beyond speculation in dealing with policy and governance issues. The right questions are asked to help you make a verdict.
For more details, you can call us on 0962 965883, 0979 753010, or email us info@camnettvafrica.com. Terms and conditions apply.
Join us on Camnet TV
every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday and Friday at 17:45 hours
on a new program dubbed The Verdict.
Remember that Camnet TV is not just another channel. And now the main news in detail. The voluntary separatees of 1999 have accused the Minister of Justice, Given LUBINDA, of misleading the public when he told Parliament that 450,000 kwacha was paid to each retiree. In an interview with Camnet News, the separatees have protested, asking the Justice Minister to explain who was paid the 450,000 kwacha. They have also asked the minister to explain how the 5.7 million kwacha his permanent Secretary Legal Andrew Nkunika said he has been released for clearing of their balances was arrived at, considering that more than 5 million kwacha still remains unpaid according to the judgment of 2006. And in his defense, Mr. LUBINDA has told Camnet News that he did not state how much each separatee was paid, considering that each is owed a different amount.
To give up on their terminal benefit is what they have refused to do. These are the voluntary separatees of 1999 who have for over 20 years been lobbying that government pays them their dues. According to a judgment that ruled in favor of the separatees in 2006, a sum of 742 million kwacha was to be paid to these separatees. According to them, only 189 million kwacha was released, which was to be paid within a period of 6 months. However, it has taken the state 20 years to pay them these funds, and in some instances, these separatees have been paid 350 kwacha per person in the periods of months. These retirees now want to find out how the 5.7 million government says it will pay them has been arrived at. The retirees have accused Minister of Justice Honorable Given LUBINDA for lying in Parliament when he said retirees had been paid 450,000 kwacha each.
There is a report, and what we know, we've been paid not more than, over the years from 1999, we've only been paid not more than 125,000 each. When Minister Waimana Parliament were paid this money. Minister of Finance internal audit team, they did an audit. They conducted an audit. We never got the 400 which LUBINDA gave in Parliament. We want this money, the difference. Not only the difference, this difference is carrying interest. Yes. Because this matter was in court. We've been meeting them. They can issue statements. Yes, as a minister, don't just follow a statement because this one is in Nkunika is issuing a statement. He is permanent secretary. This one is issuing minister because he's given LUBINDA. No, He's misled.
It's very good that PS Nkunika had mentioned that the minister was going to issue a parliamentary statement in Parliament. I would urge all parliamentarians to counter the 450,000 kwacha perceived to have been paid to each individual. Okay? So that in an event that the minister is going to issue that ministerial statement, which PS Nkunika mentioned, members of parliament should counter that statement, because then where's the 225 balance plus interest which is owed to us?
And in his defense, Mr. LUBINDA says the accusation by the retirees are false, as government is the only institution that determines how much these separatists had to be paid.
That 450,000 was paid to each. No, they couldn't have been paid a similar amount, because the money they are owed is not the same. It's different amounts that they are owed. So if the technocrats tell me and tell you that they have released 5.7 million, there's no way that a retiree, an individual retiree, would say no, they haven't received 5.7 million. Because the money is not given to them as a group. The money is paid to individuals. And the total that has been released now is 5.7 to meet the total balance for retirees.
One wonders why the retirees and the authorities have failed to come to a conclusion on this matter, considering that the retirees did not quit work by accident and that the now government is not the same government that asked the separatists to retire. Prudence Chota, reporting for Camnet TV News.
Bus and Taxi Drivers Association National Secretary Sidney Mbewe has hoped that the PF has done its homework adequately, as it intends to reduce and eventually eliminate road tax. In its new party manifesto, the ruling Patriotic Front intends to create a stabilization fund to cushion challenges and work towards eliminating road taxes in light of the road tolling program. And Mr. Mbewe tells Camnet News that as much as the move is commendable, he is hopeful that it will not impact negatively on budget financing. He says despite others labeling the move as a political gimmick, it would go a long way in alleviating the challenges that have affected the transport sector in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic.
The COVID-19 pandemic has had a negative impact on the local economy, and the transport sector has not been spared. The country has over 800,000 vehicles, according to the Road Transport and Safety Agency, RATSA. But even during the COVID-19 pandemic, the sector has not been cushioned, just like others, such as the tourism sector. Earlier this week, the Patriotic Front, PF, launched its party manifesto, which took into consideration a number of issues, but among winners is the transport sector. Bus and Taxi Drivers Association National Secretary Sidney Mbewe is optimistic that the PF has done its homework adequately, as it intends to reduce and eventually eliminate road tax.
Other sectors that are going to benefit in terms of providing incentives. Now, Zambia has got a total of about 877,621 vehicles that I think are going through a number of challenges, who the owners are going through a number of challenges. And where I would not know the rationale behind the arriving at such a decision. These are people, I think, that also they've needed, because they needed to get government support, because they are providing human resource that is critical to the advancement of the economic activities of this country.
And Mr. Mbewe tells Camnet News that much as the move is commendable, he is hopeful that it will not impact negatively on budget financing.
To support the government, then I want to believe that government has looked at interventions or what is going to take that mainstream, or what is going to replace that mainstream, so that the budget line or the budget implementation is not disturbed by taking away that component that supports the government. So for motorists, I think this will be received with joy, because it takes away the burden of the number of taxes that they need to pay for them to be able to operate a vehicle. But in terms of government support, I would want to believe that then government has looked at other avenues that will be supportive to the government as they take away this revenue that is supporting the economy, the budget, in order to improve the livelihoods of the Zambians and also to ensure that infrastructure development is not disturbed.
Government critics feel the move is aimed at enticing voters ahead of the August 12 general elections. But Mr. Mbewe is of the view that regardless of its advantages and disadvantages, the policy direction would help safeguard people who own vehicles whom we said are being subjected to several taxes at the moment.
I think one of the vivid examples that I have is the house empowerment project that was done by the MMD government. And in as much as that empowerment did help a lot of Zambians to home ownership, it impacted very negatively on local authorities whose main backbone of funding our income generation depended mostly on rentals which we were getting from the houses. So it may have a double cutting edge where in as much as it may be perceived as a political tool to have votes, it also has another edge where it's going to impact positively on the people that incentive is directed at.
Patrick Soko, Camnet News.
In other news, the Foundation for Democratic Process, FODEP, says the PF does not need to use its party manifesto to convince Zambians to vote for them over opposition political parties in the forthcoming general elections. FODEP Executive Director George Chimembe says the Zambian people will be evaluating the PF performance in government based on its previous campaign messages. He says the people will be assessing if the PF has lived to the expectations of putting more money in people's pockets, lower taxes and enhanced job creation.
FODEP is shocked that the PF government wants Zambians to vote for them on the basis of promises articulated in its recently launched party manifesto. We are of the view that the PF does not need to use their party manifesto to appeal to the conscience of Zambians when it comes to choosing between the ruling party and the opposition come August 12. Instead, the PF must showcase its social, economic and political outputs and their impact on the people's lives. We think that it is the opposition parties which must organize their ideas into party manifestos to persuade Zambians to vote for them. And this is in order, as far as we are concerned, because they have not yet been given any opportunity to form government. And so they can use ideas to convince Zambians about what they are going to do once they are given chance to form government. But for the PF, we really don't think Zambians will be interested in perusing the PF manifesto and its promises, because they will simply evaluate the PF's performance in terms of tangible results based on the famous slogan of lower taxes, full employment, and more money in your pocket. We believe that this will be the criteria for evaluating the performance of the PF and not the manifesto, because many people will just look at the manifesto as a promissory note.
Chairman for the Patriotic Front Manifesto Committee, Given Lubinda, has charged that the party's revised manifesto is a homegrown product that represents the needs of the Zambian people. Speaking at the PF Interactive Forum dedicated to explain the document, Mr. Lubinda says the PF has continued on the trajectory of not leaving anyone behind. Speaking at the same event, Vice Chairman for the Manifesto Committee, Stephen Kampyongo, says the manifesto will form the basis of any policy formulation. He has urged members of the public to understand the document, adding that the PF manifesto is a representation of many people consulted during the formulation of the party. On Wednesday, PF President Edgar Lungu launched his party's yardstick that will guide developmental aspirations for the year 2021 to 2026.
We shall reserve 50% of all available land for women while allowing competition between men and women for the remaining 50%. So we'll not say women get 50% and men get 50%. No. What we have decided now is that women, 50%, no competition, they compete amongst themselves. The remaining 50%, boys and girls compete. And if the girls can get 10% from that other 50%, we are happy, because ultimately the women must end up with 60% of the land. So that we quickly make women catch up with the issue of ownership of property. Great importance to Zambians owning their country. We are saying 80% of public or private land should be titled by the year 2026. We also say, why is it that we have to wait until you are 40 for you to get land? Why? Huh? We have decided that starting now, the age for youths to acquire land shall be reduced from 21 years to 18 years. Let the youths own land. They mustn't wait until I'm 25. No. At the age of 18, let the Zambian youth own land. We can't continue giving lip service. Youth empowerment, youth. We will not empower youth unless we give them access to the most primary factor of production, which is land. That is only when young people say, I am a Zambian, I belong to this soil, always son of the soil, son of the soil.
Economics Association of Zambia EAZ President Lubinda Habazoka says the proposed waiving off of road tax by the Patriotic Front government once voted back in power will relieve motorists from the burden of paying double taxes. Mr. Habazoka has told Camnet News in an interview that tollgate taxes are enough means of raising resources for road maintenance as opposed to subjecting motorists of paying double taxes. The economist says Zambia is not the first country to propose the waiving off of road tax, as other European countries have done the same. He says government can, however, come up with other alternative ways of collecting city taxes from motorists who do not travel long distances.
At advanced economies, the concept of road tax is outdated and very cumbersome for citizens. Imagine there are some citizens that have 4 or 5 cars and they are subjected to queuing up every quarter just to go and pay a tax for their vehicles. So tolling is one way of of easing the burden on citizens, because the idea of a road tax is to maintain roads. So if you introduce toll fees, tolling, it means that you are coming up with user fee arrangements. The car doesn't move for 2 years, you don't pay anything, and you are not contributing to the wear and tear of the roads. The car moves, you are contributing, you pay. So I think what the government has done is to avoid double taxing, and I think it's a welcome move. And a lot of people have been crying, and I think their pleas have been heard. Of modern ways of collecting, tolls even within the city. And it can be a negligible amount, and you can just pass and your account is debited. There are a lot of ways of collecting this, so that's why I think government says gradually. It's not a today issue, it's gradually. I think they are saying gradually, when tolling starts giving them enough money to sustain road maintenance, they'll scrap off road tax. That's basically what they are talking about. You can even collect tolls within the city. That is, there are such mechanisms without even hurting the tourists, without even the motorists having to pass through a barrier. Or there are a lot of modern ways and techniques of doing that.
Civil society organizations have lamented the prevailing high debt level coupled with the COVID-19 has impacted negatively on underprivileged Zambians. Zambia missed the payment of a 42.5 million United States coupon on one of its dollar-dominated sovereign bonds last month to become Africa's first pandemic-era sovereign default. Speaking during a public discussion forum on the impact of COVID-19 on Zambia's debt and financial situation, NGOCC gender and policy analyst Mendai Imasiku says the advent of the COVID-19 made some people lose jobs and income-generating ventures, thus finding it difficult to cope. She has since underscored the need to ensure that people are safeguarded despite the government's precaution towards death saving. And Ellen Mankishi, Center for Trade Policy and Developmental Research of Public Finance Management, has lamented that the issue of debt is something young people need to take interest in.
As well is that most of our women, if you look at tourism, most of the people that we find there are women. They're the ones we find working there as chefs, as waiters, these that make big, that they call like cleaning of the rooms, general workers. The majority of them are women. If you go to most of the lodges around Zambia, you go to hotels, most of them have either closed. Those that are operating, they're operating with low scale. Most of the people that they have cut down on the number of staff. And if you look at the majority of the people that have been cut down are mostly women that were earning a livelihood to support their families. So it is a cycle. It's a cycle, okay? Because of COVID, it's affecting people that are dependent on getting a livelihood through working in these industries, and as such, they cannot get an income to continue supporting themselves, to continue supporting their families.
Spending on social sectors, as earlier alluded to, education and health are some of the sectors that are heavily affected because most of our spending goes to debt. And the debt mismanagement has led to us spending about over 70% of our national budget in terms of debt repayments of total domestic resources. And what does this exactly mean for ordinary citizens? We find that there's a significant trade-off in terms of what our government is prioritizing to spend on. And so, with the many disruptions that our country has experienced over the past 1 year, especially even with COVID-19 in play, families and households are definitely affected. There hasn't been any change in terms of poverty and inequality. And even in terms of empowerment, there's still a lot more that is lacking.
Former Community Development Minister Emerin Kabanshi has Thursday morning failed to appear before court for a judgment in a case she is accused of failing to follow procedures when she re-engaged Zampost as payment service provider for social cash transfer program following the termination of the said contract. Kabanshi, who was scheduled to appear before Chief Resident Magistrate Lamek Mwale for her judgment, was nowhere to be seen when the matter was first called. However, after standing down the case for 10 minutes, her lawyers who arrived at the court premises without her informed the court that she was unwell and has proceeded to the hospital, hence could not make it to the court.
Former Community Development Minister Emerin Kabanshi will have to wait for almost a month to hear a judgment after she failed to appear before court Thursday morning. The embattled minister, who is currently an area member of parliament, was expected to appear before Lusaka Chief Resident Magistrate Lamek Mwale for a judgment in a case she is accused of failure to comply with procedure in relation to the execution of the social cash transfer program. And when a case was called before court this morning, she was nowhere to be seen. However, after standing down the case for 10 minutes, her lawyers who arrived at the court premises without her informed the court that she was unwell and she had proceeded to the hospital. Ms. Kabanshi defense lawyer Jonas Zimba told court that they were ready to proceed. However, it was unfortunate that the accused fell ill. He further apologized to the court for the inconvenience caused and requested for a shortest adjournment. Allegations in this matter are that the lawmaker between the 21st of August 2017 and April 26, 2018, while she was cabinet minister concerned in the administration and management at the Ministry of Community Development and Social Services, failed to comply with the law by extending the scope of coverage of contract between Zambia Postal Service Corporation (ZAMPOS) to include 3 provinces and 2 districts under social cash transfer program. But the accused in a defense testified that the re-engaging of ZAMPOS was done on the 8th of August 2016 to her knowledge and not the 21st of August 2017 and 26 April 2018. Kawanshi also told the court that with regard to the extending the scope of coverage, the extension of the contract was reinstated by the need that arose to extend that was facilitated in the contract. The embattled former minister denied ever taking part in the facilitation of the said contract, arguing that the technical staff, the acting permanent secretary at the time, and the controlling officer were the ones who facilitated, and her duty was only to give direction in policy. But according to several witnesses' testimony, Ms. Kawanshi ordered for the reinstatement of the contract between the ministry and ZAMPOS even after being informed of ZAMPOS' failure to deliver the terms of contract. It was discovered that other social cash transfer beneficiaries were not receiving their allocation, while those that received payment was delayed. Judgment comes up on the 28th of May 2021. Miriam Kemba, reporting for Camnet TV News.
And in CHOMA, the High Court has set Senior Chief MUKUNI'S wife, Veronica Mwana-Kasale, free after spending 3 days in detention on a charge of abduction. The Queen has been jointly charged with 4 others, namely CHOMA-based businessman Fines Malambo, former Minister Axon Sinjani, Vincent Lilanda, and the Mayor of Mazabuka, and CHOMA Mayor Jeven Smoloka. The 5 are being accused of being behind the disappearance of the Hatembo siblings, being Feluna and Milton. Meanwhile, Judge Kenneth Mulife has maintained that the state acted irresponsibly for keeping some accused persons for 32 days in detention without being taken to court. The matter has since been adjourned to the 6th of May 2021 for mention and 17th of May 2021 for commencement of trial.
Heavy military police artillery was unleashed in the small town of Choma district in the southern province, where Chief MUKUNI'S wife was appearing in court on a charge of abduction for the Hatembo siblings, being Felun and Milton. Mounted machine guns, water cannons could be seen all over Choma town in anticipation of a showdown between the police and sympathizers of the accused persons, who include Choma-based businessman Fines Malambo, former Minister Axon Sinjani, Vincent Lilanda, who is the mayor of Mazabuka, and CHOMA Mayor Jeven Smoloka. The 5 accused persons stand charged with the 2 counts of abduction with intent to confinement, contrary to the laws of Zambia. Despite these intimidating machines, hundreds still made their way to the court and in the streets, especially after the accused persons were all granted a 50,000 kwacha cash bail plus 2 working sureties in their own cognizance. At some point, police, in trying to disperse the crowd, tested their newly acquired water cannons on this crowd, but the people treated it as a fun gesture anyway. At the court, the Zambia police barred private media journalists, saying instructions had been given that only Zamese should be allowed to cover the court proceedings. In taking plea, all the 5 suspects pleaded not guilty to the charges leveled against them. However, Livingstone High Court Judge Kenneth Mulife has condemned the police for keeping some accused persons in police custody for 32 days without taking them to court, saying in doing so, they had violated Section 26 of the Constitution of the Republic of Zambia.
we are satisfied by the judgment that has been delivered this morning by the Livingstone High Court sitting here in Mazabuka. The effect of the hearing or the judgment of this morning was that we had applied on behalf of our applicants who are our clients, so Honorable Sejani, two mayors, the mayor for Choma and the mayor for Mazabuka, Javen Smoroka and Vincent Liranda, and a prominent businessman in Choma, Fines Marambo. Now, this is a judgment setting our clients free to their liberties by Honorable Justice Munife. This judgment is very sweet, very important human rights judgment. It goes to warn the state, particularly the police and other detaining authorities, that it is costly to detain suspects in cells for purposes of investigations. As you may be aware, or as the public may know, today our clients have been incarcerated for 32 days. They have never seen a courtroom in a democratic state. That is very sad and a very serious and flagrant violation on human rights.
The matter has since been adjourned to the 16th of May for mention and 17th of May for commencement of trial. Kalan Muchima reporting for Camnet News.
The Bank of Zambia says it has so far spent 345 million kwachas on the purchase of 282.79 kilograms of gold since December 2020. In a statement availed to the media, the bank says 195.95 kilograms of gold was purchased from Kansanshi Copper Mine PLC, while 86.84 kilograms was purchased from Zambia Gold Company, a subsidiary of ZCCMIH. The bank says it has planned to purchase around 25,200 ounces of London Gold Delivery Gold from Kansanshi Copper Mine PLC and 21,000 ounces of Doe Gold with a minimum of 88% purity from Zambia Gold Company per year. The commercial bank also explains that the viability and attractiveness of the gold venture is that the gold is being purchased in the local currency. The Doe Gold purchased from Zambia Gold Company will only reflect in international reserves after refining. And the bank says the purchase price of the commodity is not fixed and is determined by the London Bullion Market Association, LBMA. You're watching Camnet TV Main News. For now, we take our first set of commercials. We'll be back with more news after this.
From time immemorial, we have had different types of lighting options, from those that can burn down our investments in minutes to those that dig holes in our pockets due to constant replacement and huge consumption of our ZESCO units. Savenda Electric introduces the new and advanced electric bulb with cutting-edge technology of LED that has low power consumption, gives out bright white light, and lasts up to 25,000 hours. Savenda Electric manufactures all types of LED light, like plastic LED fluorescent tubes, down lights, ceiling lights, outdoor fittings, and solar street lights made to customer specifications. Let's live on the bright side of life by choosing the wide range of Savenda electric lighting solutions that are available in all leading stores and supermarkets countrywide. For orders, call 0962-642-490 or email jnbunda@savenda.com or pchabula@savenda.com.
Every day for me means hard work, going to sell my goods at the local market. To get more customers, I have my secret. Oracle Pure Glycerin. It's soft, smooth, and keeps my skin perfect. And my customers know it. Thank you, Oracle, for my perfect skin.
When you get Showmax, you get instant access to full seasons of award-winning series and blockbuster movies.
It's amazing.
You get shows you won't find anywhere else, like Showmax Originals.
Thank you so much.
You get awesome kids shows.
Freaking awesome.
Amazing documentaries.
You You literally cannot make this up.
And now you also get live world-class sport from Supersport.
Everything's under control.
All ready and waiting for you to watch online on your smartphone, tablet, desktop, or smart TV, wherever and whenever you like. Whoa. So what are you waiting for? Go to showmax.com to sign up. From football seasons to binge-worthy seasons, you'll get it all on Showmax. One platform, endless entertainment.
Welcome back. We continue with the rest of the main news. Chief Nyamkanda of the Senga-speaking people of Petauke district in Eastern Province says no one should force him to vote for any politician, saying he will make his own independent decision based on messages being sold by those seeking public office. The traditional leader explains that being a traditional leader is to embrace each and everyone. According to him, President Edgar Lungu and himself, just like any other Zambian out there, has only one vote, which should be used accordingly. The chief further says his vote should be given to a person who will help change the livelihood of people because hunger has got no political boundaries. The traditional leader made these remarks when the PF officials from Petauke called on him at his palace.
Mfumo ngafumelini shati yao ya referee azavale ya party yakine nikachitatecho wabungo yakine akangiwe kuwera. Okay, so kuno palace setulandira wonse mwana kondwerera nene kondwera nikaona kuti vantu vazichita organize bwino kuti se tinawo uyu mwana wanu pakuti muzwa bwino kuti na wao opposition nao wana wangu. So mwe mwasankha wanu mwana kuti pali vana vangu mwasankhapo yo kuti ye seo tili nawo wamene muli nayo yo support you and support him strongly. Haya nao akachita support wao nao mama mwa tambe nao achite support. When the final whistle blows on August 12, muzive soti kuti ni game over. Kufumira hapo, wonse wali mmuzi muno, kaya nchipani chotiani, tenekala kutitiwele. Kama chifukwa mavuto, yosangali. Mkunga tena. Mavuto yitalini kutiyai, awenza kuchipani chao kuweva ankali nina njara, awenza, yotifikira tonse pa. But nchito yangu lini nekuchita endorse nani nina vote tiara hiyo.
While garbage has continued to pose health threats to residents of Lusaka's Bowland compound, some youths have called on the relevant authorities to confer on them the responsibilities of handling waste in the area. In an interview with Camnet News, the youths have lamented that people entrusted with the responsibilities of handling waste in the area have failed to fulfill their duties but instead have only been stealing money from the residents. And Lusaka Central Constituency Member of Parliament Margaret Mwanakatwe, who visited the site Thursday morning, says community involvement in waste collection is key in curbing indiscriminate dumping of garbage.
Garbage has for many years continued to be a healthy concern in this area of Lusaka's Bowleni compound. Over the years, efforts have been made by various stakeholders to have the situation tabled, but all efforts have gone in vain. Their area member of parliament, Margaret Mwanakatwe, has equally attempted to remove the waste, but all efforts have yielded no results, as heaps of garbage have continued to emerge in the area. With thousands and thousands of waste piling up and now even blocking the drainages and part of the road, finding a lasting solution to this problem remains key at preventing the possible outbreak of diseases such as cholera. But some youths in the area are calling on the relevant authorities to empower them by giving them the authority to handle the situation.
So he said, "Funa manje getting a place. Kambo getting a place. Kuzamo ngara ko bedot. Tizwana ndrama kwa mene zienda. Kozi singa space ka chati mungala chape simzwana vintu wamne vendira. Nishini fchani vevistika manje. Munga
kina parties no kwa watu 15 44. Guys hapa mzingala. Kuna watu watatu na wote. So go kuna batala mtamani. Guys pangala abantu wali wonse. Ndrama akabeka ndrama kudia jebeka ndrama. balipira ndabira abatai balipira banje balipira bandani ifestizi balipira but even if I mkombono bakudia ndrama so abandrama badia ndrama chachuzura chibaenda baimpi bazabanje obukama MP manje bokinzayo ukuba jiyo kudia ndrama tabishara bazibe nayo bitone bikaidi kai bitu bikwazo gadinga bili bishara so akile MP bapase nchito ndiamona ndio utabishara ndibe bizangala muntu ndibazangala safe
Ndabebwina mbazafunga che ukota continuous ambo kifiri na time side.
Bwina banje.
Ngati bakalesa ambo taisa pazambo tera maloti. Ngapezeke matenda apwera kokona makolera kolera.
But their area member of parliament, Margaret Manakatwe, who visited the site this morning, says a lasting solution needs to be found to control the situation before diseases break out in the area.
We try to clear it every 2 years, it comes back. We have a challenge in that we do have some culprits right here in Bali who go and pick up Vishala from other areas and bring to dump here. This cannot be a dump site because we've got families here. It's not safe. We're lucky that we managed to get through cholera and we didn't suffer again after what government did 2 years ago with cholera. We're very lucky. Now, I'm really challenged by this Shishala, and I want it out. It's an eyesore, and it's not healthy.
Mrs. Manakato says a disintegration center has been created in Baulen compound to help in the separation of waste for recycling.
We are setting up an aggregation center at the Tambalala market. That center is also called Chishala. We're going to clear it, but we're going to be ensuring that what is brought out by the residents through the wheelbarrow boys is taken there, but is disaggregated.
What you can see behind me is thousands and thousands of heaps of garbage that are dumped in this area every day. It is important to ensure that a lasting solution is found to the garbage in this area before diseases becomes the order of the day. Children, as you can see behind me, play along this area. They don't even understand the risk that is in finding themselves on this place.
In other news, the Lusaka High Court has thrown out an application by the National Democratic Congress leader Chishimba Kambwili for an order of payment of cost on the Lusaka withdrawn matter by Bridget Atanga, the NDC faction Secretary General, where he was claiming 1 million kwacha. Counsel representing the Akafumba-led faction Japhet Zulu has confirmed the development with Camnet News in an interview.
Made an application to stay the Ndola proceedings, claiming until costs are paid in the Lusaka matter. Okay, so in the Ndola case, we then challenged to say no, they cannot say there are costs that need to be paid in the Lusaka case because costs cannot be paid unless there is an order of court. Okay, saying the costs must be paid. Now they were doing it in a vacuum. There was no order of court. Okay, so when they realized our response in the Ndola case, okay, that is when they tried now. Yes, that's when they tried now belatedly to go back to the Lusaka High Court to then claim costs, which they were creating to the public like they had claimed when they hadn't claimed. Okay, so the court has then endorsed on its record today, okay, to say it cannot entertain that application for costs because it has come before the Lusaka court belatedly. Okay, so the court has thrown out their application for costs.
However, National Democratic Congress Vice President from the Kambwili-led NDC, Savoy Imboela, has dismissed the claims that the court had thrown out the application. Ms. Imboela has since challenged the Akafumba camp to stop misleading the public. Speaking in an exclusive interview Thursday afternoon, Ms. Imboela said the court had only set a date for inter partes hearing for cost and not what is being reported. She reiterated that it was unfortunate that the other group continued to commit contempt of court.
As you can see, if you can pick this letter, if you can pick this letter is today's letter, okay, from the courts, okay, or rather this is from our lawyers.
because we're just granted the day to day by the court. So our lawyers wrote to their lawyer, you know, they wrote to their lawyer, and this hearing is returnable on the 28th of April. Okay, it's returnable on the 28th of April, which is I think, is it next week or so, and not what they are claiming. So enough is enough, and I think as NDC, we are now going to take these matters seriously and institute contempt proceedings against this Kafumba group.
The COVID-19 vaccination exercise has been launched in Northwestern Province, with authorities urging the people to turn up in numbers to access the vaccine. Northwestern Province has received 8,300 doses of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine. Northwestern Permanent Secretary Willis Manjimena says priority will be given to frontline workers and those at risk of contracting the virus. Among the notable people who took the first job include the Permanent Secretary and Chief Matebo of the Kaunda-speaking people of Kalumbila District. Christian Coalition presiding Bishop Professor Charles Mwape says the coalition will fully support and campaign for President Edgar Lungu ahead of the 2021 general elections. Addressing the media Thursday, Bishop Mwape notes that President Edgar Lungu is the only president who has shown political will in advancing the altar of God in the nation, hence the decision. He has cited the construction of the National House of Prayer and the declaration of 18th October as the National Day of Prayer and Fasting and Reconciliation as a plus for the Christian community. Meanwhile, Bishop Mwape has called on the head of state to allow all of the churches that worship in schools to resume their service within new normal. He says it would be folly PF Zambia to continue holding school church gatherings when it is a Christian nation.
Bishops, which is the supreme organ of the coalition, resolved this year to support President Lungu, to endorse President Lungu because of maintaining the declaration of Zambia as a Christian nation. Number two, because of creating the 18th October, the day of prayer, fasting and reconciliation. These are big political decisions that we don't want to trivialize, and therefore we decided that it is important to maintain his leadership. And number three, because President Lungu is building a house of prayer for God, being the second person in the history from Solomon to President Lungu. Therefore, we are obliged as a Christian political movement to support President Lungu. The coalition also is appealing to President Lungu and his government to allow the churches that meet in classes. Over a year, the churches are not meeting. One of our responsibilities of the Christian coalition is to engage elected leaders accountable. We want to remind the government that these pastors and bishops that meet in classes, they deserve to be allowed so that they can be meeting under the new norm. Therefore, we appeal to government to consider allowing these churches to begin meeting, because this country is a Christian nation.
We take another break. We'll be back with international and sports news. Stay tuned.
In this fast-paced era of industrial boom and population growth, there is need to invest in smart ways of managing electricity and water consumption and reducing utility billing costs associated with the postpaid billing system. At Savenda Electronics, we manufacture right here in Zambia different types of high-quality smart electricity and water meters to customer specifications. Savenda Electronics water and electricity meters help you monitor your usage and gives notifications such as low units, tampering, low battery, and many other features. These easy-to-use meters makes it easier to buy units even in these COVID times and top up just from the comfort of your space. Favorable contract terms are available to both electricity and water utilities. For more details, get in touch with us on the following numbers: 0956 580 349 or 0977 498 318. Savenda Electronics, the real deal.
2021 has been described as a highly politically charged year. This is because every 5 years the country goes to the polls, and that 5 years elapses. With only a few months remaining down to the ballot, the battlefield to appear on the ballot is becoming fertile. A lot of people are expressing interest of appearing on the ballot.
In all this, our interest is to put the duty bearers, the leaders, and those aspiring to task by asking the relevant questions.
If you're an aspiring candidate, be it councillor, mayor, or member of parliament, get in touch with us to get yourself on the verdict.
We go beyond speculation in dealing with policy and governance issues. The right questions are asked to help you make a verdict.
For more details, you can call us on 0962 965883, 0979 753010, or email us info@camnettvafrica.com. Terms and conditions apply.
Join us on Camnet TV
every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday at 17:45 hours
on a new program dubbed The Verdict.
Remember that Camnet TV is not just another channel.
Find all the answers on GoTV this weekend. Join the search for Pablo Escobar's millions using the latest technology. Learn new songs while making new friends with Berry and Dolly. And who better to solve all your problems than Judge Judy? GoTV. Love it.
Getting into our international news, lawyers of former South African President Jacob Zuma have filed a notice of withdrawal from representing him. The lawyers have not given reasons for doing so. The notice filed on Wednesday follows last week's ruling in which the former president lost an appeal against the state's bid to recover money that it had spent on his legal fees. It also comes before a corruption trial due to begin on May 17, 2021. Mr. Zuma faces 16 charges over a 2 billion United States arms legal, including fraud, racketeering, and money laundering, all of which he denies.
Mabuza attorneys have parted ways with former President Jacob Zuma. The legally and politically embattled former president has been dumped by his legal team just 3 weeks before the start of his corruption trial at the High Court in Pietermaritzburg. Mabuza attorneys filed a notice of withdrawal with the court this morning. The withdrawal comes at a time when Zuma recently lost the Supreme Court of Appeal judgment on the state paying for his legal bill. This may result in Zuma's day in court being moved, as he now has to find new attorneys who need to be briefed and familiarize themselves with the arms deal case with Thales International.
In another international item, several Chadian army officers led by General Idris Abderrahmane Dicko refuses to recognize the authority of the Transitional Military Council led by Mahat Idris Deby. The political crisis in Chad is becoming even more entrenched. While Mahat Idris Deby took the head of the Military Transitional Council after the death of his father, the Chadian opposition denounces it as a coup. This choice is far from being unanimous even within the armed forces. General Idris Abderrahmane Dicko and several officers of the Chadian army are now said to categorically refuse to legitimize the takeover by the son of the former president.
A growing discontent in Chad's polity as mystery surrounds the death of President Idris Deby. Chad's main opposition parties say the army's appointment of Mahamat Deby as the nation's new leader is an institutional coup, and within the army itself, the choice has been met with some opposition. General Abdurrahman Diko is from the National Republican Army. We say no to this decision taken in haste without popular consultation because the people said no. We tell our brothers in arms who are part of this military transitional committee to come to their senses and listen to the cries of the Chadian people. 37-year-old General Mahama Idris Deby, head of the Presidential Guard, is criticized for his lack of experience. The government and parliament have been dissolved, but constitution experts say the Speaker of Parliament should take over. General Mahama Idris Deby should listen to the democratic opposition and civil society, because if they say no to this coup d'etat perpetrated by this small friendly group, he had better listen to them. Otherwise, if he takes the current direction, he will have problems. The country belongs to everyone, and everybody has the right to be consulted. Mahama Idris Deby Idno, also known as General Kaka, was in charge of the Presidential Guard and used to lead Chad for 18 months until elections.
We now get into our sports item. Zambian coach BESTON Quicksilver Chambeshi has returned to NKANA Stadium after signing a deal with 13 times Zambia champions. Chambeshi, who was on his way to Forest Rangers after he resigned as Kansanshi Dynamo's coach last week, was unveiled as new Kalampa coach on Thursday. This will be Chambeshi's fourth spell at the Usakile Best side. NKANA has been dumped out of the CAF Federations Cup and are struggling in the league as they are in the drop zone alongside Luwana Radiants, Green Buffaloes and Kitwe United. Chambeshi, who played for the Kitwe Giants, will be hoping to steer them from the drop zone. So 1988 Olympics defender and Kawe Warriors legend Manfred Chavinga started the season at the helm of Kalampa before he was replaced by UEFA B license holder Kelvin Kaindu. Kaindu still on gardening leave. Simonda took over in a caretaker role before the announcement of Chambeshi. The story is courtesy of Zamfoot Sports. Well, that sports item brings us to the end of Camnet TV main news, but before we go, the headlines once again. Eastern Chief says hunger knows no political party and will not be forced to support anyone. CHOMA rose for Chief MUKUNI'S wife and 4 others accused of abduction. Given LUBINDA says only government can determine how much retirees should be paid. And in international news, ZUMA'S lawyers withdraw ahead of corruption trial. And in sports, NKANA re-appoints BESTON Chambeshi as head coach. Before we go, we take a look at Camnet's verse of the day, and it's coming from the book of Psalm 24:1-2. The earth and everything in it, the world and its inhabitants, belong to the Lord, for he laid its foundation on the seas and established it on the rivers. I am Precious Mzea Sakaleji. Thank you for watching. Please on viewing.